All right. Hello everyone. Good evening from where you're joining us from. Welcome everyone to today's Givher Series by Tower Africa. We are super excited to have you join us today. My name is Edith Duru, and I will be your host for today's session. Um, so today's session is all about something that is truly at the heart of every career growth conscious person. And we'll be talking about the growth mindsets, and which is very key for anyone that wants to grow, both personally and career wise. And we have our amazing speaker already here, Purity Ashko. I will be introducing her very quickly. Purity is someone that is very passionate about helping young people to unlock their potentials. And then I would allow her to come in. Hi, Purity. You have the platform.
Hi, Edith. Hi, everybody. Good evening, wherever you're joining from. I am honored. As mentioned, my name is Piriti Ashkoy, a Kenyan gender development professional, uh, really keen on women empowerment issues. Just how do we grow ourselves as women? And so being able to grow as women in our careers requires that we think about our own growth, and we cannot think about growth without going internal and looking at our own mindsets. How are our mindsets wired? And for me, I am just so glad to be able to share what I have learned along the way with all of us, and to just unpack that. How as career women, as professional women, how do we get from one level to another? What are some of the things that hamper us as career women, that sometimes you find that there's a promotion opportunity at work, but you fear um, going for it because maybe of a particular mindset? So what happens there, and how do we overcome that? So I'm quite excited, and I really hope that we will be able to gain something, glean something from what we are going to share. Remember that it is a journey that I myself have purposed to undertake, and I am so keen on it. And not saying that I'm an expert, but it's just something that I chose to do in 2025. I chose to intentionally work on my growth and just be able to ensure that I am moving from one step to another as a career woman. So I think with that brief introduction, I would just request that if we may go direct to the slides. Awesome. We are going to begin with what we are seeing on the screen, the African proverb. And I wonder where it's from. I think I will do much more research. If there's anyone here that knows where it's from, maybe they can drop it in the chat. I know lots of African proverbs. You know, we have some that are Kenyan, we have some that are Nigerian, we have some that are from all over the continent. But you know, if you think you are too small to make a difference, you haven't spent the night with a mosquito. I think that message sums it all up, you know. And no matter how full the river is, it still wants to grow. And I think for those of us that live close to rivers, we see just how hungry for growth the river is, and no matter how full it still wants to grow. Next slide, please. So again, no matter how long a log stays in the water, it does not become a crocodile. So of course, this speaks to the type of mindset we have, because along the way we're going to see that you have two types of mindsets. But if you have a particular mindset, and even in the right environment, but you still have that mindset, you cannot turn and be somebody else. You have to go inward and just do some internal work. And there's this adage that you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. But for some reason, and because of the growth mindset, I want to challenge these. I want to say that no, you can actually teach an old dog new tricks. And now, here, remove the old dog and put your name. Okay, that you can unlearn you can relearn as much as you need and as much as you want. So, next, please. So, how can shifting from a fixed growth mindset, from a fixed to a growth mindset, impact both personal and professional success? I think that is the major thing that we are here for, just looking at how do we develop a growth mindset. So when you think about mindset, and I really love the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. In my quest for wanting to grow, I have really found this book very insightful. And even as you begin the book, there are some types of questions, or rather, there are some questions that you get asked, and however you answer to those questions, you you measure yourself. Are you speaking from a point of having a fixed mindset, or are you speaking from a point of having a growth mindset? And let us begin by, first of all, understanding what a growth mindset really is. And so I will keep making reference to Carol Dweck's book, and because it's just a whole encyclopedia, if I could say so, of just how the mindset is and how you can be able to actually shift from that fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So people with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities are static. They believe that their abilities are unchangeable, that they're just stuck. Like, this is what I know, and that is what I will take to the grave. I cannot unlearn, I cannot relearn. But on the other hand, those with a growth mindset, they believe that they can improve through effort and learning. And she makes reference to children. You know, when a child is learning to walk, you know, they don't face a setback and then they're like, no, I'm not going to walk ever again. You know, they fall down and then they get up again, and they keep learning, they keep doing it over and over again. And then they know that when I face this obstacle, then next, this is what I'm going to do so that I can get around that obstacle. So think of it like a muscle. You have a muscle, and that is your brain, because the brain is really just a muscle. And every muscle, even for us that go for exercise, that go to the gym, the more you exercise, the more you are able to tone your muscles, the more you're able to get into shape. So the brain is like that. And that is what the people that ascribe to a growth mindset believe and know, that our brain grows stronger with practice and challenge. Just like an athlete trains for a marathon, just like a boxer trains for a match, just like a footballer, you know, trains to be able to do that 90 minutes of football. And they do that on a daily. And that is how we are supposed to train our minds. So definitely, it is not that we cannot learn and unlearn, but we need to train our minds, because we can be able to have it grow stronger with practice and with each and every challenge that comes our way. Next, please. So, of course, no one will pay as close attention to your growth and development as you. Are the one that knows yourself. You know where you are right now. And the journey to developing a growth mindset begins with self awareness. Because if I want to move from point A to point B, I have to find out, why am I at point A? And why do I want to move to point B? What are some of the obstacles that may have or may be of, a challenge for me to get to point B? So it starts with the self-awareness. You ask yourself questions. Most of the time, what I have come to realize is, as human beings, we really fear confronting ourselves. But we can never really begin the journey towards growth if we do not confront ourselves, if we do not go deep within ourselves. and ask ourselves questions and inquire what is it that drives us. What is it that sometimes you go through and you feel that you do not even want to wake up in the morning? What brings that about? What is it that when you encounter failure, you feel that there is now no hope for you in life? What is the root cause of that feeling? So when you come to a point of self-awareness, then you're able to now say that, yes, now as purity, number one, ABCD, which at a later moment we are going to really look more in depth into that. But just being able to get into that space and be aware of who you are, and then now you say that, yes, this is where I am accepting that this is where I am. Acceptance is also really, really key, because we cannot move in denial. If we move in denial, then we cannot actually make those strides. We cannot get to where we want to get, and that is point B. So ask yourself, have you ever thought of it like that? That the person that can give the closest attention to your growth and development is you, is myself. So no one else, not even your teachers, not even your parents. And at some point, like right now, in as much as during the formative years, I relied a lot on my parents for a lot of things. But right now, I am at a place where I can be able to make my own decisions. And that is why it is really important to understand that not even your friends will be as invested to your potential or in your potential as you should be. Yes, we say that you're supposed, and I saw this from someone that I follow on social media, that you're supposed to surround yourself with people. Number one, you're supposed to surround yourself with a coach. You're supposed to surround yourself with someone that can sponsor you, that can mention your name in spaces where you are not there. You're supposed to surround yourself with a mentor. You're supposed to surround yourself with someone that can support you and be a leader. That, yes, in as much as we are saying all these things that you're supposed to have them, they will not be as invested in your potential as you should be. And sometimes the most that they can do is to cheer you on, is to spur you on, is to give you opportunities. But if these opportunities do not find you prepared, then definitely you will not be able to move from point A to point B. So it really underscores that here we are looking at the self. We are looking at how do I move from one level to another. If it is career acceleration, you've been working at a place and you've been working here for 5 years. It is about time that you start asking yourself, why am I still here? What is it that has hampered my growth? What is it that, maybe there is opportunity that comes, but you fear presenting yourself, or there's just something that limits you from moving ahead. So it is time to have that discussion with yourself, an honest, sincere discussion with yourself, and ask yourself questions. Okay. So unlocking your potential starts with you. And I want to say that it starts today. Okay. Next slide, please. So when we are talking about undeveloped gifts and talents, what are we saying? I am bringing this up because remember I made reference to us, being children. When you're a child, the world is yours to conquer. You're not thinking twice. If you're told to climb a tree, you're not looking at the tree and asking yourself, will I be able to climb? You run and you climb that tree. At that time, there's no thought that I cannot do it. you know you're just doing your natural abilities. You're discovering that you can be able to do this, and it becomes fun. You're able, if you're somebody that loves to sing, you remember in Sunday school you used to sing a lot, and then just somewhere along the line you don't know where it disappeared. So sometimes you see people singing and you're like, wait a minute, I really loved singing when I was young. So what happened? So of course, naturally, when we are born, when God made us, He gave us talents, He gave us gifts. But there are some gifts that remain unused or unrefined. Because even if you're a singer and you love singing and you've been singing since childhood, it's going to reach a point where you will need to refine that. You will need to go for coaching, voice coaching practices. You will be needing to practice as often as possible. Okay, so skills that are not nurtured due to lack of awareness or practice or even opportunity. Because sometimes you may want to sing, but there's no opportunity to sing. Although, yeah, you can sing in the shower, right? Most of us love singing in the shower. Does that count? I do not know, maybe. But maybe you're lacking that opportunity to showcase that skill. Maybe you're lacking that opportunity to practice that skill. Some people prefer, just to keep a fantasy instead of working hard to achieve their dreams. And in as much as I say prefer, sometimes it could be that you are in an environment that does not even allow you to be able to work hard towards achieving your dreams. And most times as women, we get ourselves in those spaces so many times. I had been in a situation, in an environment where my voice was stifled. My voice, I had been silenced in a way, and yet I am a very vocal person. I love to sing. I love to just be able to stand on a podium and talk and talk and talk. But you see, I was in this environment where anytime I would talk, I would be told that I am being too aggressive. So what did I do? I conformed so that I could fit into that environment. I was in a platform today, and actually, one of the panelists mentioned and said that as women, we suffer from a syndrome that we call walking on our knees. Why do we say walking on our knees? I will use this illustration that, for example, as Purity, I am tall, in nature. I am, this tall lady. But because I am tall, I fear that, when I'm tall and I'm walking amongst people that are not tall, then I will catch attention. All the attention will be upon me. So what do? I go on my knees and I start walking so that I can be able to be on the same level with everybody else. I don't know whether that resonates with you, but when this person said so today in the panel, I was so moved because it resonated so much with myself. Because as women, that is what we constantly do. We shrink, we move down. Why? Based on the environment. And we are thinking that if I talk, if I raise my voice, if I say I want that promotion, then I'm going to be looked as too aggressive. I am not going to look feminine. I know there is all this talk about femininity, but there is positive femininity. And guess what? There is also negative femininity. Just as there is positive masculinity and there is toxic masculinity. So it is for us as women to find a balance. Being feminine does not mean that you need to conform. It does not mean that you now need to shrink so that other people can thrive. It just means that you need to stand in your space as tall as you are, proud, because it is God that created you that very way. And God knew that having created you as tall as you are in your space, it might be tallness in voice, like myself, because I have a loud voice. Sometimes I do not even need a microphone. I can project as loud as I can. That is my tallness. And God created me like that. So it is for me to find, why did God create me like that? How am I supposed to use this voice for the good of society instead of shrinking? Instead of now, I want to talk using a softer voice. I don't want to speak up in spaces so that I can be able to conform. And commitment to develop and grow, you need to make that commitment yourself. Because remember, we said we are beginning with self-awareness. So does the journey end there? After I am self-aware, after now I know that, yeah, maybe it is the environment I'm in, or maybe it is some beliefs that I hold up about myself. What next? I need now to calm down and make a commitment to develop and grow. It might mean going to classes. It might mean going for, sessions like this where you can actually learn for free. It can actually mean going for networking events. It can mean a lot of things for different people, but at least you're making a commitment and telling yourself that I am committing to do ABCD so that I can be able to grow. Okay? And then you need to be able to assume moderate risks. I'm saying moderate because, of course, now that we are walking the journey of self-awareness, it is you that knows that this is a risk I can take and this is a risk that I cannot take. So you're able to actually look at that and say that yes, but do not be afraid to take risks. In fact, there's someone that said something and I really learned a lot from. They were asked, what is failure to you? And they answered and said, failure to me does not exist. I look at it as a challenge. So when we encounter failure, do we look at it as a challenge, or do we now say that now we have lost hope and we will never try again? And again, I want to throw this out there that most of the time, because of the way society has labeled us as women, when we encounter failure, we feel as if we have let the whole community down. We feel as though we have left the whole family, we have let them down. And then we say, oh, yeah, now I have failed, I will not try again. My challenge to you tonight is take those moderate risks, take those calculated risks. They are worth it and they're going to move you and actually shift you into a growth mindset. Next slide, please. So, yes, make anything happen. Take that risk, start that business idea. Okay? Assess your goals, create a plan, restructure your thoughts, execute. I am going to just briefly share with you. I am just coming from an event today, and this event came into my mind. And as I've mentioned, 2025 for me has been a year where I am challenging myself. I am challenging my mindset, and I am telling myself, Purity, you have an idea, execute it. I move. I do not see the whole staircase like Martin Luther says. Take the first step. You do not need to see all of it. Just take the first step. When you look at the step in front of you, move your leg. You will see the next step in front of you, move your leg. And that is what I did. And for me, it was towards women empowerment, bringing women together. And I thought of this event, I put things together, and I just said, I am going to execute. I started looking for people that were going to be on the panel. I started looking for participants. And I want to tell you that even by yesterday, I was not 100% sure that the event was going to be successful. In fact, I was so doubtful. But I told myself, no, I have already taken the step. So, and I had a plan. I had already assessed what is the goal that I want to achieve. I want women to come together and network. And then what? Be able to do one, two, three. And then I created a plan. And then, of course, there was a bit of restructuring here and there. There's back and forth. We need to do this. Oh, no, 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 this is not working. We need to do it this other way. And then the execution has happened. And guys, I am telling you that the event has been so successful. And now I'm even saying that had I given room to the fears, to the doubts, that looking at the storm around and not focusing on the goal, that I had set, then the event would not have happened. So as women, are you making this statement, that I am able to make anything happen? For those of us that are believers, there's a verse in the Bible that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That verse was not put there by mistake. And those are some of the affirmations that we need to say day in, day out, because we have been given the power, we have been given the authority, we have got very smart brains, we have got very brilliant ideas. And that is why they say that the richest place in the world is the cemetery. Why the cemetery? Because many people have died with brilliant ideas. Many people have died with an unstarted business, if there's a word like that. They have died with a lot of wealth of knowledge, that had they executed those ideas, then right? They would have made the world a better place. So do not forget to improve your social skills and increase your emotional intelligence. Right now, for those of us that are on LinkedIn, I think there's a whole talk about emotional intelligence. There are some people that actually even argue that right now, IQ is not so much important as EQ, emotional intelligence. You need to know how to socialize with people. You need to know that when you're attending a networking event, how are you presenting yourself? Personal branding comes on board. When people look at me as Purity, what is the first thing that comes to mind? And when I leave them, what is that thing that they're going to remember that, oh, yes, I had an encounter with Purity? Or when I call them and say, hi, this is Purity, we met ABCD, they will be able to say, ah, that lady so. That is personal branding. You're building a presence. You're building something that now somebody will be able to even speak for you in a room that you're not there. Why? Because you have showed up. You have been able to just build those social skills. You've been able to know how to mingle with people, how to create connections with people, and even how to understand and make people feel seen. Because most times what we do during networking events is we go meet people and then we just start talking about ourselves. I have fallen victim to that. And as I've mentioned, it is a learning journey. So, how are you able to give the other person room? That is where emotional intelligence comes in, so that that person feels seen, and then they're feeling, wow, I was with this person, and their aura brought me towards them. It did not repel, but it brought me in. So, what are those things that you're learning to do? Next slide, please. So, we come to the elephant in the room. What are the most common self limiting beliefs and how can we effectively challenge them? When we are talking about limiting beliefs, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So these are things that we actually talk to ourselves about. Okay? Invisible barriers. Why am I calling them invisible? Because they are self limiting. These are not beliefs that other people believe about yourself. They are self. It is you that believes that about yourself. Okay? Thoughts like, for example, I am not good enough. And people might actually look at you and they think, wow, you are an awesome person. You look like somebody, but you're not, you don't believe that yourself. What you feel is, I am not good enough. People like me don't succeed. That's deep. People like me. So what does it mean, people like me? But those are thoughts that we have. Somebody tells you, oh my God, you're so beautiful today. And then the first thing that comes out of your mouth, are you sure? You're doubting yourself. Yeah. You look so good today. Really? Those are things that happen. I have fallen victim of it myself. Somebody compliments my look and then I start explaining and telling them how, even the dress I'm wearing, I got it at a bargain. They've not asked me how much the dress was, but I want to water down the compliment. That happens because of the self-limiting beliefs we keep telling ourselves. Okay. These statements, they're not facts. They are stories that we have internalized. These stories we have internalized based maybe on situations that we've come from childhood. And most of the time, it is because of some wounds that we have accumulated from since we have been children. So, whenever those thoughts come, we must question those stories. We must ask ourselves, who told me that? Is it true? What would happen if I believed the opposite? Okay? Like, who told me that? I remember there was a time when I was in high school. There's a lady who told me, the way you're in high school and you have acne? This lady told me that I have a sandpaper face. And Of course, it affected me at some point, but I got to a level and I would look at myself in the mirror and I would ask, so it is a process. It is something that I am going to, grow out of, because puberty, it happens to everybody. So we need to make sure that when we are getting into this journey, then we are able to confront. If at all one of the self-limiting beliefs is I am not good enough, then please write it down. And then just below it, start detangling it. Who told me this? Is it true? Now list all the things that you have been good at, and then now ask yourself, you know, that question: what would happen if I believed the opposite? And why are you believing the opposite? Because you will find that you have been so good at so many things. And then you now challenge that story and you find that this story is indeed false. And then you see, you start unlearning, and then you start relearning and telling yourself, I am good enough. Next slide, please. So, what are some of the barriers that we have that hinder us from reaching our full potential? And trust me, I know that there is nowhere I have mentioned career, okay, like focused really on career, but you find that most of these things that we are looking at, the self limiting beliefs, they're going to hamper not just our career lives, they're going to hamper our social lives, they're going to even hamper our financial life and our general growth in totality. So that is why it is very important for us to really unpack this and go just systematically. And then now we start looking at, some behaviors that even in the office, you're in a meeting and then a question has been posed and you know the answer, and the answer is burning, but because you're afraid, there's a limiting belief within yourself, you stay with your answer and you do not even raise up your hand and you do not say it. It is most of the time because of the self-limiting beliefs that we have. So it is important for us to look at both the psychological and emotional aspect of it, because that is what builds up, and then now we get to project it in our lives at the career space, in our lives at the social spaces, in our lives at the family spaces as well. Okay. So I mentioned that most of these self-limiting beliefs are because of wounds, you know, and wounds are energetic blockages that are brought about by emotional trauma. Sometimes you might go through life and you do not even know that you have emotional trauma. But then you get to a point and you encounter a self limiting belief. And now, when you start that journey to look into self, you remember that maybe there's a primary school teacher that anytime she would tell or he would tell people to read in class, he would always point at you and call you stupid. And so it developed something. And then now you're starting to find, oh, yeah, that must have been what brought out the emotional trauma. And then now you start the journey towards healing and the journey towards unlearning that self limiting belief. So, woundedness is a state whereby the individual overcompensates for these blockages by distorting his or her natural expansive behavior to become restrictive and defensive. Okay? Because if somebody comes to punch you, what will you do? You will go into defense mode, definitely. You will either block, you know, one way or another. You will just try and find something to counter that. So automatically the adrenaline kicks in and you go into defensive mode. Even in our own social, emotional being, in our own emotional construct, we have things that we do to be on the defensive. And sometimes when we get this level of woundedness and we start overcompensating and we start restricting ourselves. Like for me, even up to now, I have a fear for swimming. I have spoken about this fear for so long. And I'm even asking myself, for how long will it remain a fear? And why? Because I have that self-limiting belief, and I'm telling myself I cannot do it. I enjoy going to the swim, that to the shallow end, and make the pool beautiful, and pose there with my swimsuit and cheer the others up as they swim and flip on the waters. My children at some point even laughed at me. They were like, "Mom, surely at your age you do not know how to swim." But then I just have this image in my head that when I get into the water, I'm gonna drown. I have tried removing that image from my head and it is not coming out. I kept challenging myself that 2024 was going to be the year that I'm learning how to swim. And now 2024 went, and now I'm in 2025, and I'm telling myself 2025 is the year that I'm learning how to swim. So hopefully I will come with a testimony one time and share that I have learned how to swim. But I'm just sharing this so that you can see that it is a journey, and all of us we've got things that we are telling ourselves we cannot, we are not good enough. That one I can't do it. No, people, someone like me, no, I can't. No. The others they can. Have you tried giving it to so and so? Yeah, she can do it. There's at a level that you can do that, maybe because of expertise, that sometimes there are things that are not, like for example, there are things in IT that I cannot do because I'm not an IT guy. So if it is in that regard, then that is fine. But there are some things that we are saying no to because of what we are telling ourselves, the stories that we keep telling ourselves. Next slide, please. So, what are some of the causes of woundedness? Of course, we've talked about childhood a lot, and then we have unrealistic expectations. So, for childhood, I will not focus on it. Of course, repressed pain, terror, shame, abuse, neglect, abandonment, overprotection can be a bad thing. Okay, over control, ridicule. Sometimes in class, and I don't know whether this is the same for you. Sometimes you find that girls start their menses in primary school towards the later class grades or classes. I don't know how you call them in West Africa. In Kenya, we call it, primary level has got from grade 1 to grade 8. So most girls start their menses at around grade 7, grade 8. And then you find that when they begin in class, they get ridiculed, especially by boys. They're laughed at, they're called names. And so that can actually form a wound. And it just, because of our emotional state wanting to protect itself, you just find that you have created something around that. So anytime your menses start, it triggers that, and then there's just something that happens. You may not want to go into the public space. Maybe you do not want to interact. At some level, and when you start digging deeper, you find that, oh yeah, this happened some time back. Okay, and then there's criticism, there's bullying, and inconsistent or harsh punishment. There's domestic violence, there's divorce, there's unsafe environment, and the list can go on and on and on. This list is not conclusive. And then the unrealistic expectations. Sometimes we get into relationships, we get into environments, we get into careers with unrealistic expectations. And this actually happened to me last year in a position where I am. I just had this unrealistic expectation of a certain promotion that did not come. And when it did not come, it really stressed me. It really just made me bitter. And at some point, I became stunted growth wise, and I just felt constricted, like I am in these four walls and I cannot push them. They're just pull, they're just coming in on me. They want to crush me. And that is why now, beginning of 2025, I said no more. I really just want to work on my mind. I want to shift, and I don't want to go into spaces with unrealistic expectations, because they can backfire, and trust me, they will backfire. And when they do, they leave us in a very bad state. And then we just have this woundedness, and we carry bitterness with us. And now those opportunities that may have propelled us, to accelerate to the next level, we are not even seeing them because we are so much focused on our woundedness. We are so much looking upon these expectations that were unmet until we miss out on opportunities that would have pushed us to the next level. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, are you able to know what your first 3 to 10 years of life looks like? Okay, this is a question to just ponder on. If you're able to remember, if you can remember, just think through what are some of the things that happened that are, you're looking at some of the fruits right now because of maybe things that were sown during that time, during that period of your life. Okay, so this, let us have it as a take home exercise for all of us. Let us think back and remember. Next slide, please. So, what are some of the effects? Of course, there is shame, and I have mentioned a lot other effects. There's feeling flawed. Of course, you start blaming yourself. You start being defective. Somebody just starts saying something, and it triggers your mind that this is an attack on you, and then you defect. You know, it's like you're throwing a ball against the wall and it bounces back. So you have a mechanism that people are throwing things at you, you're bouncing it back at them, and then you just there's that aspect of just being unlovable. The people, and when they see that you want to love them too much, they just start feeling, it triggers something, it triggers a wound in them. Then maybe they either start behaving in a way that will make you not love them anymore, or they just something. And there's also a sense of feeling worthless. There's insecurity, there's getting stuck, like you can't move. I don't know how many of you can relate, but most times I have been able to feel like this, like I can't move. And when I say I can't move, is I cannot get out of my bed. I literally feel stuck, and your mind is just stuck at a particular thing, and you're not seeing a way out. So you're even now thinking, as in your physical space, like you cannot move. You become like literally paralyzed. It happens. And then there's fear. And then, of course, when you're talking of fear, there's the fear of abandonment. There's just fear of the unknown. There's just fear of a lot of things. And if we can unpack fear till tomorrow, okay, there's fear for failure, there's fear for rejection. That you cannot now even apply for jobs because you have been rejected for so long, or when you're applying for jobs instead, because you're at this level, and you want to start applying for jobs that are a level lower. Why am I saying that? I had been out of the career space for so long to be able to raise up my children. And when I was getting back into the career space, what I did, there was a job advertisement. And one of the roles was directly towards what I had studied in campus. I did not apply for that. The other role was as an office assistant. So in my mind, I told myself that with this gap, if I apply for the one that I'm qualified for, there's a lot of competition. So let me apply for this office assistant role, and then when I get there, I can get opportunity to get to that. Now, are you able to see, this? Why? Because already there are things I was telling myself. There was a level of limiting belief that was happening. I was self-doubting, I was self-sabotaging myself. And actually the organization called me and they were like, no, 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 no. Can you do another application for that one, because you are well qualified for that? And yeah, I went for the interview and I was picked for the position. But now you see, if organization was not gracious enough to be able to do that and look at, where I fit, then I would have self-sabotaged myself and I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. So there's actually that fear that you now go for a lesser role, or you tell yourself, no, let me just remain here. I will never pitch for acceleration. Why? Because of that fear. And of course, we have bad habits. We will not go into detail about that, but we can get into substance abuse. We can get into, just any other thing that may bring addiction or any other bad habits that you can think of. And then there's self blame, or you start blaming others. That's saying, yeah, it was so and so. Yeah, of course, there are some cases where it is other people that are sabotaging us, but when it is us, it is best that we just focus and say that it is self. And then we either trust too much or we either trust too little. There's, of course, denial. And now that is where you now start living in fantasies, you start living in delusions, and then you just become numb. You're just numb. Everything happens, but you're living in your own bubble. You've created your own world, and that is the world that you're living in. Everything else around just becomes, so you're just numb, and you're telling yourself, this is how life is for me, and I'm comfortable like that. And then there's alienation, difficulty bonding with people, difficulty loving people, difficulty committing to people, and even having other people commit to you. Like, whenever I have mentioned again before, but now whenever people are committing to you, it triggers something, and then you start distancing yourself. And then there's low self esteem. I cannot overemphasize this. Here we can talk about imposter syndrome. We can talk about a lot of other things. You're feeling as if, and this one has happened to me again quite a long while. I am going somewhere to network, or I am going somewhere to speak, and then I start feeling as if I am a fraud. Like really, like, will people even listen to me? Am I even qualified enough? And then you start, and especially when you're looking at other panelists and you find that they're well read than yourself. Uh, that is it. You just start telling yourself, like, no, 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 no. People are not even going to listen to me. I'm not going to deliver. So that is a whole battle that is happening inside you. And we really need to just find ways to overcome that battle within ourselves. And then we just go and conquer the world. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a depiction, and of course, I will not repeat, but you can just read for yourself. I am not good enough. I do not deserve success. So you need to rewrite these negative stories from childhood, and it enables you to step into your power. And I've said, you're stepping into conquering the world. And once you're freed from this emotional baggage, that we come from that, you can fully embrace opportunities. When the opportunities are coming your way, you're able to really embrace them and go forward. Next slide, please. So, how do you rewrite these negative stories? I have mentioned you do a self awareness check, you identify what those limiting beliefs are, you recognize the negative self talk and its origin. You challenge and reframe your narrative. That is why I said, write on a piece of paper. If the limiting belief is I'm not good enough, write everything good that you have done, and then you rewrite that narrative. Practice self compassion. Hug yourself, forgive yourself. Tell yourself, actually look at yourself in the mirror and forgive yourself. Accept mistakes as part of growth. Look at those failures as challenges, or not as failures, and they have nothing to do with you as a person. They are just mechanisms to help you grow. Engage in positive affirmations and mindset exercises. Daily affirmations. You can use the Bible. You can use, if whatever faith you ascribe to. You can go there and get affirmations that you can actually read out to yourself each and every day, so that you can reframe your mind and tell yourself that you can actually do it. Next, please. Even as we do this, let us not forget gratitude, okay? Seek mentorship, seek counseling, peer support. Remember, I said we are surrounding ourselves with five people: a mentor, a coach, a sponsor, a cheerleader, and who's the other person? I forget, but I will be able to share. But I had mentioned earlier on. So you seek that mentorship, you seek that counseling. If you feel that, yes, these wounds are too deep and I really need to see a counselor, do that. Learn from those that have overcome similar struggles. As women, this is the challenge that we have. Women that are on top are not stretching their hand to lift women down. Women that are down, they fear approaching women on top. So when we are able to bridge that gap, when we now have opportunities where we can be able to interact from one another and learn from one another, as a woman, once you have passed a barrier, why don't you look back and say that these younger women, I will not go through the same barrier? How can I be able to give them nuggets and tell them that you can navigate and you can actually get to the top when you do A, B, C, D? And then take proactive steps towards personal growth. As I began, I said it starts with you. Nobody can be as invested in your growth as yourself. So silence your inner critic. Next slide, please. So, what practical strategies can help build confidence and resilience in the face of setback? If you just look at that picture, it just shows up like there's drought, but there's that flower that has gone through that crack. So, what are some of the things? Of course, we have mentioned previously that those are the practical strategies. Next slide, please. It's all in the mind. And for you to be able to do this, you need to just have your mental state in check. May is Mental Awareness Month. Each and every day, find something to do that goes towards a healthy mental state. Because guess what? If your mind is not okay, even when you go to your workspace, you will not be able to deliver. And when you're not be able to deliver, then those opportunities for growth, those opportunities for acceleration are going to pass you by. So exercise simple relaxation techniques. Keep a hopeful attitude. Be the glass half full type of person, not the glass half empty. Always have hope. And when you look at it, if you do not have hope, then it's like you've already given up. So even tomorrow, for us to be able to get to tomorrow, it is hope. We go to bed hoping that we are going to wake up. So if you lose hope, then you have lost life. Next, please. This is the Johari window model. In this day and age of technology, I would advise you to go just and Google this. The first area is open area or open arena. You're known to others and you're known to self. The things that others know about you are the same things that you know about yourself. And then we have a blind spot. Yeah. There are things others know about you and you do not know. So, how do we tackle that? Today, ask five people to give you feedback about who you are. People that are close to you, ask them, what am I good at? What should I stop doing? Those types of questions, they will give you feedback. When they give you feedback, then you're able to tackle this blind spot because there are things that they know about you and you do not know about yourself. There is the hidden area that there are things I know about myself as purity, and I do not want the world to know. There are some that are, yes, very important to be able to keep a balance, in life. But sometimes we need to be vulnerable enough to allow people into our spaces so that they can learn from us, so that they can challenge us. And of course, there is the unknown that you do not even know about yourself, and you others do not know about yourself. And that is just a brief explanation of the Johari window model. It is a very good tool to be able to get into the self-awareness journey. So I would encourage you to Google more about it and actually take up that exercise and find out. You will be able to discover a lot about yourself that you can actually be able to work on or even just strengthen about you. Next, please. So, some birds are so used to being in a cage that they won't leave even if the door is open. Okay? So, if we live in a constant state of fixed mindset, even when opportunities come, we cannot know how to grab them. So, it is upon us to go. Get yourself out of that cage. Remove yourself from that box. Learn how to fly. Because, as I've said, the world is yours to conquer. The sky is no longer the limit. We can excel, we can accelerate as women, we can grow when we agree or when we decide to take up a growth mindset. We can soar as high as we can go. And remember, today I was being given an analogy. Look at your hand again, and for each finger, have a name of a woman that you want to grow with. Okay, that as you're growing, you're pulling other women as well, so that at the end of 2025, you can actually come together and say you're having branch because you have moved from one level to another. And then we will be able to celebrate and we are able to just have one community of empowered women in Africa. So, what next? What are the steps that you're taking? What is that one thing that you have taken from this talk today? That is for you to ponder on, that is for you to make commitment, journal tonight, tell yourself that you're going to do A, B, C, D to be able to challenge those limiting beliefs and to be able to develop the growth mindset. And see you at the top. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Purity. It's really, really been an amazing, inspiring, and powerful session. And I'm very, very certain that everyone here is really, really excited and grateful for this wonderful opportunity to hear from you. And for me personally, it's the fact that you did not just share your insights, but then you were able to relate to it. It's something really, really relatable, right? And you're able to also use personal experience to illustrate some of your points, and which is really, really amazing. So thank you so much for this opportunity to learn from you on growth mindset. And you've taught us today that growth mindset is a journey. It's a journey that we need to embrace and also an opportunity to learn, to relearn. One must have a flexible mindset, one that is able to grow. So because of our time, we just have 3 minutes to spend on this webinar today. So I would like us to look at a question. We have just one question that we pick at this time, right? And why I picked this particular one is because it's very, very close to an example which you mentioned here. It's about the job application that you have to, apply for a lecturer role. So this question says, sometimes we deal with imposter syndrome. How can cultivating a growth mindset help us overcome that? So I would like you to respond to the question. Thank you.
I think for a moment I lost you, so I would just want to request you to repeat the question, please.
All right, sure. So the question says, sometimes we deal with imposter syndrome. How can cultivating a growth mindset help us to overcome that?
Uh-huh. Um, we deal with
Okay, we deal with an imposter syndrome. A
imposter,
situation where
yeah?
we,
I mentioned it, yeah?
yeah,
So I have even given examples of myself. And
yeah,
trust me, when even these gurus that we see, I'm calling them gurus because they have been in this space for so many years. All of them at some point they have suffered imposter syndrome. Okay. And the trick is to not look as imposter syndrome as a barrier per se, but looking at imposter syndrome as a step with which you can elevate yourself. And whenever I want to talk, for example, to a big audience, and then those questions, they will always come. Will I deliver? And maybe there's a speaker that has gone ahead of you and they've just killed it. And then you're like, oh my God, oh my God. You're now just feeling, no, I cannot top that. Why can't you go back to some time that you really delivered? Remember, we are rewriting, we are reframing the thoughts. Okay, we are growing from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So why can't you use those thoughts as the platform in which you're bouncing? Okay, so look at a ball. As you're bouncing a ball, it's going to hit the hard surface, but every time it bounces, it keeps going higher than the first time that it bounced. So for me, that has really been a key aspect when it comes to dealing with imposter syndrome. Just looking back at the successes that I have had, and being able to reframe. And then as well, another thing is, remember, you're not coming in as an expert. Like me today, I have not come in as an expert. I have come in as somebody who is on a growth journey. I carry this book and I read it. Okay. So remember, as you're growing, you're sharing. But if you come with a mentality that I am the expert, then definitely that imposter syndrome is going to overpower you. Because why? What if you don't deliver as an expert? And you see, as an expert, you've already set the bar too high for yourself that you're even now positioning yourself to failure. In this journey, we are all learners. Even Vusi Tembekwayo keeps saying that, he is also learning. And as he learns, he shares. Okay. I hope I've been able to really tackle that question very, very well. But I just wanted to give, like, what do I do myself when the imposter syndrome, comes through and wants to take over during my moments of being able to speak or present.
All right, thank you so much, Tracy, for that wonderful response. So, from what I gathered from what you said, it's to overcome the imposter syndrome. First of all, acknowledge your successes, that you saw the success you had in the past, and also understand that you're not there to impress, you're there to express yourself. So with that, you are able to tackle the imposter syndrome. Thank you so much, Purity. We have come to a wrap, to the end of this session. It's really, really been an amazing session, and I'm sure everybody is so delighted to be here in this session. And don't forget, just a final word, don't forget that the growth mindset starts with you. It's a learning journey, it's a learning curve. It starts with you, first of all, being self aware, acknowledging where you are, right? How do you go from where you are to where you want to be? That is a growth mindset. So stay tuned for the next one we are going to be having, which is also the Give Her series that is coming up. Would let you know what time you have to join us. And thank you so much for this session. Thank you to all our listeners, everyone that joined in, and special thanks goes to Purity Ashko. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. All right, so it's going to be a bye
Thank you so
from
much
me.
for having me. It's really been awesome.
Thank you, Purity. All right, bye everyone.